Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today we got our first look at Ghostflame, the skill tree and all, thanks to Action RPG, and we'll have a link to his channel and to this video in the description below, and we're going to go off the footage that he gave us. He does cover all the nodes, so we'll be able to look at each of the nodes individually, and then theory craft off of those. He also does give some gameplay footage of some of it, so we'll watch that and react to it together, and then of course I will give you my theory crafted experience and expertise on some of these nodes and kind of tell you where my head's going with it and just some of the synergies and builds we might be able to get out of it. So we're going to start off with the very first node of the skill itself, Ghostflame, which is a channeled skill to release a continuous jet of horrid flames in front of you, dealing fire and necrotic damage over time. And of course you'll have no mana regen while channeling, so as long as it has a cost, you'll eventually get knocked out of it, correct? Here you can see you have the fire, necrotic, spell, damage over time, channeled, and intelligence tags. Now, I'm not a huge fan of skills that start off with dual tags, in this case fire and necrotic, because that means you can't really scale one or the other, because any added spell damage is going to go half to each. So if you have a whole bunch of fire damage, it's only really 50% effective for it. So I kind of like to have a single tag, but I'm sure you'll be able to convert it somewhere in the tree. Going right off to the left, the very first node we have is Dread Furnace. Ghostflame has a chance to inflict damned and ignite 2 enemies each second. And it looks like you can put up to 5 points here to get a maximum of 200% ignite chance and damn chance per second. While that can lead to a lot of stacks, that doesn't seem like too much. I mean, only putting on 2 stacks of ignite per second, whereas other builds that have a high amount of ignite chance and can attack multiple times per second or have multiple hits within the same attack each one of them do, of course, will probably far exceed that. But this could turn out, I'm sure there's other ways to get it, maybe there's new gear, whatever, so it could possibly be a good dot build. Right above that we have Disdain. Damage taken while channeling is reduced by a percentage, up to 4 points here. You can have up to negative 40% damage taken while channeling from the enemies that are ignited, damned, or bleeding, which is pretty easy to get those on enemies. That is a crazy amount of DR. 40% is huge. I expect a lot of builds that run Ghostflame are probably going to be putting into that to push high into the end game. A little bit more up to the left, we have Arteries of Malice. Ghostflame's base necrotic and fire damage is converted to physical. Alright, so we can go ahead and get rid of a dual tag and just put physical on there. Consequently, this damage scales with increases to physical damage and not necrotic or fire, as you would suspect. Damned and ignite chance from all sources is now converted to bleed chance. And considering that this skill itself had 200% of ignite and damned, wouldn't this give you 400% bleed chance? If so, that's a lot of bleed. You can now do 4 stacks of bleed per second. Ghostflame now drains a portion of your health each second. Ooh, the current health drain. Instantly, I'm thinking low life. Low life, I mean, Necromancer or Acolyte in general has a ton of low life builds, so I'm thinking that this might be something that we're doing low life with. Phantom Transfusion, you leech a portion of the physical damage to you as health while channeling. Probably not something that I would want to do as a low life build. It seems counterproductive to be having a portion of your health being reduced each second while at the same time leeching it back with extra bleed chance. But, you know, it could work out as long as you're leeching more damage than you're actually taking yourself. The bleed chance per second, or all your bleed chance is bleed chance per second, and you get another 50% chance in this node. So you can have, I'm assuming, the 400% of the damage and ignite changes like we thought, and another 250% here means that you're getting 6.5 stacks of bleed average a second. That could turn into quite a few bleeds. And I mean, that's just in the skill tree in the first few nodes, so definitely think there might be something you can do with bleed around this build. Next, we got Feast of the Bones. Damaging an enemy with Ghostflame causes you to cast marrow shards towards them. This effect can occur a maximum number of times each second. So it looks like max marrow shards per second is 2. There's no points to put in there. Max marrow shards per second against a single target is 1. Ooh, so you can only against one target actually have it proc once. per second, but if you're hitting multiple enemies, then you can hit up to 2 of them per second, or at least have it go off twice per second. It means it's going to be a little bit slower on bossing, but definitely going to wipe out groups a little bit better. The fact that you can proc marrow shards every second, though, is kind of huge, because marrow shards, you know, consumes a portion of your life, which we were already thinking of going low life in the very beginning of this, with the health being consumed per second. Marrow shards does a ton of bleed. It does extra hit damage against bleeding, so there's some good synergies there. I could definitely see channeling this to have marrow shards go off, but again, I think the main issue is going to be how you get your mana back, because you won't be able to sustain channeling 100%, or at least so far that's what it seems like would happen. But I'm thinking a low life marrow shard Ghostflame could definitely be a thing. And then lastly, the last note in the top left is the Fuel of the Anguish. Increases the frequency of marrow shards per second from the Feast of Bones. Improves the marrow shard's base critical strike chance to cast this way. So you can get up to 60% more frequency for the marrow shards. I'm assuming I would assume that it would have to increase the maximum amount that you're allowed to do per second. So you'd be able to get a 60% increased frequency. You'd be closer to 2 per second, which, you know, would be much nicer, having marrow shards go off. You can obviously manually cast it with high cast speed faster than that, but having Ghostflame do damage at the same time, yeah, I could definitely see a lot of bleed coming out of this. So that's definitely something we're going to have to try, some bleed marrow shards Ghostflame build. And then here's a little footage of what that would look like. This is Aaron going with his Ghostflame, which has the Marrow Shards spec, to have the Marrow Shards being procced. And as you can see when he's using it here, it's a nice channeling and a nice cone. Like, it's got some good area, and then you can see the Marrow Shard bones absolutely just firing off in all directions, which is pretty sick. So I think that's going to be really good. Alright, going down to the left bottom side, we have the Ocul Embers. Ghostflame has increased ignite and dam duration per point of intelligence. Oh, that is huge. If you're going low life, you're already stacking int for your ward retention, so you're going to have a ton of it. Let's just say, kind of in a min-max, but even less than that, let's just say 50 points of intelligence is going to give you 100% increased duration, and I assume that also, when you convert this over to physical, usually it'll convert as well. So you're looking at not only getting all of that bleed chance, and I'm just really stuck on the low life bleed build, but it looks like you're going to get a ton of bleed duration as well. That's huge. That's a lot. Like, most of this is all subject to change. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a cap put on that. Flames of Misery. A portion of your global ignite chance on hit now applies to ignite chance per second for Ghostflame. A portion of your global damned chance on hit now applies as a damned chance per second for Ghostflame as well. Respectively, you can get that up to, wow, if you can put 5 points in there, you can get 200% of your ignite chance. So that would mean that, hold on, double the amount of your ignite chance on hit would become ignite chance per second. While tripling, 5 points would be 300% for damned chance. That's crazy. You're doubling and tripling your ignite and damned chance, and I assume that converts over to the bleed. Yeah, there's going to be some good dot builds coming out of this. There's no way, like, the percentages are very high, and if you can get regular ignite chance on hit and convert that at a multiplier into this, oh, that's huge. Yeah, that's big. We're going to be seeing some dots. We have Atrocity. Ghostflame deals more damage but has a higher channel cost, both multiplicative with other modifiers. 4 points, you can get up to 48% more damage, but increasing its channel cost by up to 32% as well. It looks like we're going to need like a good mana regener, because it looks like while this is active, you're going to be able to put out a ton of damage with it. It's getting the mana back when you're not channeling that I think is going to be something we're going to have to really work around to make feel good. Decrepit Mortals. After channeling Ghostflame for a short duration, the skull releases a terrible screech, cursing all nearby enemies with Decrepify. Ghostflame gains the curse tag, but its direct damage still does not scale with increased cursed damage. Ooh, so only the curses will. Perhaps we'll build into some curses. Not entirely sold on that yet. Then we have Horrifying Shriek. The screech from Decrepit Mortals node has a shorter delay before being released and a larger area. So you can get it down 60%. That'd be less than a second into channeling. You'd be able to get it to go off with an increased area of 60%. Again, you're still not selling on me, but of course we know from the passives that we saw there's a ton of things that synergize with curses, so it might be worth it. And lastly, Banshee, the Screech from the Decrepit Mortals node now also fears enemy, and Ghostflame deals more direct damage, multiplicative with other things, to feared enemies. Here's the thing, 75% more damage to feared enemies is huge, but the problem I have with that is doing damage to feared enemies is so difficult because the moment you fear them, they take off running away, and then you have to chase them down. So unless we're moving faster than they are, like, I've never been a huge fan of fear. It leads to not being able to hit enemies and them running away and having to chase them, and I've really never liked it. It is good from a damage reduction standpoint because they're not attacking you if they're running away, but we'll see. Maybe we'll play around with that. Alright, moving over to the right side, we have Domain of Torment. Ghostflame deals more damage in a larger area, and this is multiplicative damage, which is huge. You can have up to 5 points, so 25% more damage, as well as up to 50% increased area. That's going to make your cone much, much bigger. I like that. Then we have Enfeebled Prey. You leech a portion of the damage you deal as health against cursed enemies while channeling Ghostflame. So here's a reason why you might want to have that curse, you know, after a second, so that you can get additional leech. Again, like I said, I'm probably going to go low life with this because those low life nodes with Marrow Shard were looking pretty juicy. Additionally, you take less damage from cursed enemies while channeling Ghostflame. Ooh, that might make me build into this. I don't really want the health leech, but you can get an additional 20% less damage taken from cursed enemies, and you can get 40% less damage taken from just channeling your Ghostflame, and then you can get 20% more less damage taken from enemies that are cursed, which you're going to be cursing just by using it. That's a lot of DR inside of this tree. I'm liking that. I like seeing lots of DR. It's going to make you feel really good. We have Lingering Warmth. When you stop channeling for Ghostflame after having channeled for at least 1 second, you gain haste buff for a short duration. Additionally, when you stop channeling, you gain ward per cursed enemy. Ooh. I'm wondering if what the I'm assuming in the Altmar information will probably tell you what like the distance of that, like how far out it's counting all the cursed enemies, but you can get up to 45 ward per cursed enemies. As well as a second of haste. So as long as you're channeling for just a second, you basically can get 45 ward per second, assuming that you have cursed enemies nearby. I'm wondering how that could be abused. If you have like a big group, you curse them all, and then you channel for 1 second, not channel, you know, go back and forth. How much ward you're actually gonna be able to stack? I mean, it's not a ton, but it is some. We have the Memorial of Flames. After channeling for 1.1 seconds, Ghostflame detaches itself and persists for a short duration without you needing to channel. This effect ends early if you start channeling Ghostflame again. And you can make it last with 5 points up to 2.5 seconds. So you can channel for just 1.5 seconds and then have it do its own thing for 2.5 seconds. Now that's a node I might build into because you're going to have to stop channeling at some point, right? You're going to have to get your mana back. So like I would almost put points in that just so it continues to do so even after you're done. Just so that like for that 2.5 seconds it keeps going, that lets you get your mana back and then you can go back to it. So it could be possible, if you can get all your mana back that quickly, to have 100% uptime of a Ghostflame. That's pretty sick. The Detached Ghostflame now slowly seeks out nearby enemies as well, so it can continue moving, not just stand still. That's nice. And then we have Unending Ruin. The duration from the Memorial of Flames node is longer, but Ghostflame now has an upfront mana cost. Ooh. So the Detached, you can get another 240% duration out of it. Wow, that means that you could legitly, it was 2.5 seconds max, 240% increase on that, almost 3 times, 2.5 times. That's going to put you at, oh, jeez, 9 seconds-ish? 8-9 seconds of you not having to channel it, but it's still doing all of the damage for you. I assume being able to proc the Marrow Shards. I don't remember if those said that they directly needed you to be casting it or channeling it. So that's huge. But of course, 60 upfront mana cost is pretty big as well. But I wouldn't mind paying 60 mana plus 1 second's worth of channeling cost for the to go off for 8, 9, 10 seconds by itself. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. It's too bad you can't have multiple of them. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be cool, but we'll see what we do with that. It might be something we build into right off the bat. We're obviously going to test it. Then we have the Silver Oblation. After channeling for 1 second, Ghostflame consumes a portion of your current ward, and it deals damage in a larger area per ward consumed. Ward consumption of current ward, 25%. This is, again, it only happens once, and that's 1 second after you started channeling. Area per 10 ward consumed plus 1%. So just, let's say that you happen to have you're doing a low life build, so you can normally sit at 10,000 plus ward with the experimental fix and quite a bit of health. So let's just say you have 10,000 ward, 25%, that would be 2,500 ward. Divide that by 10, 200, so you can get 250%. Oh, there's a maximum ward consumption 1,000. So at the most, you can get 100% increased area. At least that's nice. It reduces the amount of ward. Like, you know that after a second of it, 1,000 ward is gonna be the max that gets taken. But at the same time, like, I hate how you always see that cap at the very end. You're like, all the theory crafting I was just gonna do, yeah, stop me short. Stein Beams, probably pronounced that wrong, but for each 200 ward consumed by the Silver Oblation node, you now cast a Stiglin Beam at a nearby enemy, dealing spell necrotic damage. Enemies cannot be hit by more than one beam. So you can have up to 5 beams shoot out. That's pretty sick. And then here you can see it's just a necrotic spell. I don't know if that converts over to physical, if you convert the whole thing to physical. Added damage applies only at 100% effectiveness. So probably it's, you know, another sub skill. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but you never know. Perhaps it's really cool. Perhaps it just looks really cool. Then we have Spirit Kindling. All your Wraiths, Spectrals, and Revenants gain a stack of Spirit Kindling every 0.5 seconds while they are inside Ghostflame's area of effect. Each stack of Spirit Kindling lasts 5 seconds, drains health per second, and grants increased movement speed, melee attack speed, and ignite chance equal to a portion of your ignite chance. That's pretty crazy. So every stack is 6% melee attack speed, 12% move speed, and up to 30% of your ignite chance. If you're playing some Ignite minions, maybe it'd be worth it. I don't think that I'm going to bother with that. But, you know, some Ignite Wraiths, maybe it'd be worth it. But we'll see, we'll see. Alright, then we got Wraith Form. You gain additional dodge rating per intelligence while channeling Ghostflame, as well as more dodge rating multiplicative while channeling Ghostflame. So you get flat and increased dodge. That's actually pretty huge. You can have 100% more dodge with 40 flat. 40 flat's not a huge number, but the 100% more dodge. If you put some dodge on gear, that's going to be a lot of dodge. You know, I've never been a huge fan of dodge, you know, because you're always at risk of still getting hit. Your one shot still hits you, you're dead. But overall, it can reduce the total amount of incoming damage, especially with lots of enemies and lots of them missing. So maybe we'll put into that. We have Ethal Blockade. All of your dodge rating is converted to armor while channeling Ghostflame. Okay, so I will put into dodge rating there, because if you have 100% more dodge rating and some flat dodge, and all of that becomes armor, that's huge. I would assume you're not getting 100% increase to armor, so it's not going to take all the other armor to infect, but the total amount of dodge that you're getting then being converted to armor, you know, for straight damage reduction, I like that. An easy way to build up your armor and actually take reduced damage from every hit. Spectral Menace. Ghostflame has a lower channel cost, and you gain a portion of your current mana as ward each second while channeling Ghostflame. So the channel cost can be reduced down to, is that 70%? I believe you can get it down to 70% reduced cost. That's a lot less. And the current mana ward while channeling, up to 70% of your current mana is going to give you ward, I assume, every second. So that's pretty huge. Of course, as your mana goes down, you're getting less and less ward, but that's a really big reduced cost. We have Domain of Agony. Ghostflame deals more direct damage multiple of those per second you spend channeling Ghostflame. Direct damage bonus applies every second, up to 30% more direct damage every second. So the longer you actually channel, I'm wondering, that's direct. I guess if you have the Ghostflame Ghost, that goes after you've stopped releasing, it's probably not going to continue to get that bonus. That would have been sick, but since we won't be directly channeling, it probably doesn't get that bonus anymore. But that's a huge amount. You can have up to 150% more maximum damage. That's insane. The Spirit of Dread. You now move towards the target location while channeling Ghostflame with increased movement speed, but it has a higher channel cost. So yeah, 60% channel cost. Whew. But you can now move while channeling, so that's huge. That brings it into kind of the realm of Warpath, being able to move while you're channeling. That's huge. Probably still pretty spendy, but I do like the idea of being able to move while channeling. That's sick. Doom Surge. You move faster while channeling Ghostflame. You can get up to another 30% move speed. And Harrowing Path. Ghostflame has a lower channel cost, but you move slower while channeling Ghostflame. So yeah, channel cost, you can reduce it down another 30%, but the move speed will go down 40%. So I feel like those are just kind of wasted points. You know, you increase the channel cost to move, you lower the channel cost to move much slower, almost to the point where you're not moving again. So I don't know, maybe we'll play around with this, but I am so much more interested on the whole other side of the tree and getting into those marrow shards being procced, getting into that DR, having a huge amount of bleed going off every second. We'll probably stack marrow shards. I know marrow shards has a lot of bleed options inside of that skill tree, so lots of synergies there, and that's probably what I'd look at. Maybe perhaps we'll get into just doing straight hit damage with the channeling, or the straight channeling direct damage. Yeah, until we get our hands on it, not much more we can do. But again, I'm really excited for that top left side. The amount of DRs got me excited, and then just that amount of the ability to do so many dots and proc their skills. Always excited to see those. But that's my review for the skill tree teas that we got. That's what I'm theory crafting off of it. So let me know what you guys think, which way you think sounds the coolest, and we'll discuss it below in the comments. As always, stay safe and have a good one.